Hi there, welcome! So, this is probably the first time that you see my face. And to give you a little bit of a reason why, well, you probably know that I've been reading a lot lately and I just really want to talk about the books that I loved, and my boyfriend doesn't really love books as much as I do, and I wanted to talk to people who love books as much as I do. And I also really wanted to tell you that I love them and want to keep you reading as well. So maybe these 10 books that I'm going to talk to you about are maybe some new recommendations for you. So these books aren't in any particular order, so it's not really my top 10, but the first two series or books that I'm going to talk to you about are the lowest rated of the 10, which are 4.5 stars, which really isn't that low, but you know, the rest of the books and series are 5 stars. So I don't really know how long this video is going to take because I want to talk about books. I never done this before, and normally I rattle on about them a lot. So just so you know, maybe you should grab a snack, maybe grab a drink, and just relax, chat about books with me. Maybe you get your next read, your next favorite read. I don't know. Maybe you do. I hope you do. So the first book or series that I want to talk to you about is the Shadow and Bone trilogy by Leigh Bardugo. The first book in the series is Shadow and Bone, the second Siege and Storm, and the third is Ruin and Rising. So, for those of you who don't know what the story is about, it's about Alina Starkov, and she is a soldier and one day has to go out to the Shadowfold, which is kind of a mist where monsters live, which there's the world she lives in apart. And when she gets there, she actually figures out that she has magical powers. Magical powers aren't really weird in this book, in this universe, because there are Grisha, which are all magical, are just people with magical abilities. And this book is just about the fact that Alina actually becomes one of a chosen one. Let's just call it that, and she tries to save the world. That's actually what it's about. I really like this, and I've heard that very many people don't think this is good anymore, that it was really good when it first came out and it isn't really anymore, but I haven't really read anything like this. I don't know how, because there are very many tropes and that kinds of stuff in this, but I just really liked it. It wasn't really that original because I have read stuff that have the same kinds of things in it, like the kinds of tropes, but I just really liked it. I don't know. I also really don't know why, but I kind of like the romance. I'm not going to tell you which romance, in case you don't know yet. There's actually also a Shadow and Bone Netflix series out, and I really love that as well. So if you don't like to read, I don't know where you would be watching this video, but you do you. If you just like hearing me talk about them, that's fine too. But if you do want to check out the series, it's really good as well. It's about the first book in the series, and I hear there is going to be a season 2, and I hope it's going to be about the second book in the series. So I gave this series in total 4.5 stars, I believe. So don't pin me on that. Haven't actually checked. The next one, so kind of number 9, is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I gave this book 4.5 stars. I really liked it. I really did. It's about Nora. And Nora decides that she doesn't really like life anymore. There's not really anything happening for her anymore. So she actually decides to kill herself. And when she does, she gets into a library, and every book in that library contains a life that she would have lived if she's chosen differently. So maybe if you had chosen to stay at home with your parents, or in her case, if she decided to actually become an Olympic swimmer, or if she stayed with an ex-boyfriend, you know, this book just shows everyone what would happen if you would choose a different life. And I really like this. The only thing that I had that I liked a little bit less about this was the fact that I saw the ending coming like immediately. But I really like the message that this book gives, and it really makes you think, you know. I really love that. I love that about books. I just really liked it. It was a really good read. I think you would cry if you cry about books easily, which I do. So yes, I cried. So I think it's a really good book. That's why I gave it 4.5 stars, and I think you should read it too. I think there is a trigger warning for suicide, but I personally didn't think it was very present, but just so you know. So number 8, or kind of number 8, I don't really know, is the A Darker Shade of Magic trilogy by V.E. Schwab, which is A Darker Shade of Magic, A Gathering of Shadows, and A Conjuring of Light. So, I absolutely adored this series. I think I've read the entire series in maybe a week, I think. And I know I read quite fast, I know that, but it was just amazing. The world was really whimsical and fantastic, and I just really loved it. So to give you a little bit of an idea what this book is about, this book is mostly about Cal, and in this book there are 4 Londons: Red London, Grey London, Black London, and White London. Red London is the London where there is still very much magic present. White London, there is still magic, but the leaders are very corrupt. You have Black London, which is developed in darkness because the magic went wrong. And there is Grey London, which is kind of our London, so there isn't any magic anymore. And we follow Cal, and Cal is an Antari. He has the magic, he has the ability to travel between the different Londons, so the different dimensions. And yeah, it's just kind of about that. And in the first one, I won't spoil too much, but he finds something and he has to return it to one of the other Londons. And we kind of just follow that. And then, I don't know, I like the second book the most, The Gathering of Shadows. I won't talk to you about what really happens, but there is a magical tournament, and I just love magical tournaments. And I also think that if you liked Avatar: The Last Airbender, then you might also like this. This is actually an adult fantasy, which is one of the first I actually read, which is pretty cool. And I really loved it. I also really like V.E. Schwab, so that's really good too. I believe I gave this series between 4.5 and 5 stars. I think I gave the first one 4.5 stars, the second one 5, and the third one 5 as well. So I personally really love this. There were some things that I didn't really like, but I won't tell you too much about it because that will go into spoilers, and I won't give you any spoilers because I want you to enjoy the book and see if you want to read it for yourself. I do really recommend this because I absolutely loved it. Loved it so much. So please check them out. The next book on this list is Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. I gave this book 5 stars. I absolutely love this book with all my heart. Just, oh my gosh. I know that this is, as I told you, this is written by Frederick Bachman, and he is one of my favorite authors of all time. I just absolutely love him, and I know that most people who read Bachman think that this is one of his lesser works, but I really loved it. I also read some of his other books, and I love them as well. But I just thought it was amazing. I don't really know. It just really resonated with me. I don't know why. I don't know. So this is about a bank robbery that goes wrong, and the bank robber decides to run away, and they end up in a condo that is having a viewing that day. So there are multiple people there, and the bank robber just runs into the condo, and well, they just actually have a really long conversation, if you want to categorize it as that. But we also see the background of all the characters, and I just think that Bachman is really good at seeing general themes, and just his writing style is so amazing. I really, really recommend this book, and I also really recommend every book that Frederick Buckman has ever written. I haven't read all of his books yet, but I really, really think that you should. And I am making it my mission to actually do that. So, really read this. I mean it. If you are going to read anything on this list, then read this one. The next book on this list is actually Crooked Kingdom. This is the second part in the Six of Crows duology, and I also really recommend Six of Crows, of course. I love these books. These books are also written by Leigh Bardugo, the same author from the Shadow and Bone books, and this is just this book is set in the same universe. It is set in Ketterdam, which is a fantastical historical version of Amsterdam, and I really like that because I'm Dutch, and I think there are some I can see some aspects that are actually really Dutch, and I kind of like that. This book is about a band of misfits who go on a heist, and what more do I need to say? They're going on a heist. I mean, yes, please. And the first one actually kind of ends on a cliffhanger, so book 2 is also amazing, so I really like them. And the Shadow and Bone series, which I was talking about earlier, is also based kind of based on the first book in this series. Not really, but some of the characters appear in the series, and that is really cool because I like this series a lot more than Shadow and Bone even. So go check them out. So the next book I wanted to talk about is Fishes by V.E. Schwab. This is a paranormal fiction, I believe. I think it is. It's about Victor and Eli, and they are college students, and they have a hypothesis about people with special abilities, kind of like X-Men, and they call them extraordinaries, and they want to try to make themselves extraordinary, so they started experimenting on themselves. And then we also see a POV 10 years later, so in the future, and yeah, they actually become rivals then, and they both have superpowers. So I can't tell you how much this book, it's just really cool. I really like it. And I gave this 5 stars because I think it was amazing. I like the writing style, I also like the story, and just the fact that we actually kind of read out of the villain's perspective. We have a villain and someone who thinks he is a hero, and we read out of the villain's perspective. And I think that's really cool because that's a change of pace, and I think it's a solid read. I really love it. I know I've said that about every book on this list, and it's because I do, because these are my favorite books that I've read so far this year and last year. So for the next series, I wanted to give you kind of another genre, a genre that I enjoy really, really much, and that is the Truly Devious trilogy by Maureen Johnson. And the first one in the series is Truly Devious. The second one is The Vanishing Stair, and the third one is The Hand on the Wall. Just look at these covers. I mean, isn't that just enough reason to buy them? No, it isn't. Don't waste your money. Is it really wasting money if you buy books? Anyway, so this book centers around Stevie, who is going to a boarding school in Vermont because she has, and every student in this boarding school has something special about them. So they are really good at something special. So one of the students is good at writing his own books, which is really cool. And Stevie's specialty is crime detectives. She really loves them. She loves riddles. She loves just to solve cases. So we see her trying to solve a case that happened in the 1930s, I believe. And we also see the perspective, we see the timeline of the 1930s. So what happened then? And just we see everything unfold as Stevie tries to see everything and tries to investigate, and we also see what actually happened. So I think that's really cool. I love the writing style, and the characters in this are also pretty cool. I didn't always love Stevie that much. I think that's a recurring thing in me liking books. I personally don't really like female protagonists, which is really weird, but I think they mostly whine a little. I don't want to say that because I mean, of course I love a female protagonist. I don't know. She is pretty cool in this book, but she sometimes whines a little bit. But I think she's actually pretty cool. And the main character has anxiety, and I think this is a really good representation of that, because I can kind of feel some of the things that she is saying really well. And I think it's really cool that someone is representing kind of these books. And there's also a non-binary character in this, and I also think that's really cool. So it's actually based on Agatha Christie, but if you want to read something that is a little bit more fluffy, it's a YA mystery. So it's not that hard to read, it's not that adult. I don't know, it's just a really good book. It is. I personally love all of them. I did think that the ending of the last book was a little bit disappointing to me, but it's still a very good read. Number 3, I suppose, is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the Dutch translation. I'm really sorry I don't have the English one. As you probably know, like I just told you, I am Dutch, so some of my books are in Dutch, but I prefer reading in English. So this is also a mystery, and it's about Avery. Avery she lives with her sister, and they are pretty poor actually. They struggle to get by, and one day Avery hears that she has to go to a mansion in Texas. She had to be there for a reading for the testament of a man she doesn't know. So she realizes she got a lot of money out of that will. But the only condition is that she has to live in his mansion for 1 year, but his family also lives there. Like, his family just didn't get the entire inheritance. So you can kind of see where this is going, I guess. It's not really nice to just live there. It's pretty dangerous actually, but it's really cool. I thought it was really cool. And then are 4 grandsons who are around Avery's age, and they kind of think that their grandfather is actually leaving them a riddle, you know, kind of a riddle just through the entire house. They think Avery is the first clue in the riddle, so they actually they are trying to solve this riddle, to play the game, the inheritance game. I personally love mysteries a lot, and this has very many riddles in it, and I think it's just really, really cool. So if you do want to pick up a book, I highly recommend this one. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I'm patiently waiting for the second one, and I want it now. So I'm not really patient, but you get it, right? I hope. The next series I wanted to talk to you about is the Spellslinger series by Sebastian de Castell. The first one is Spellslinger, the second one is Shadow Black, the third one is Charmcaster, the fourth one is called Soulbinder, the fifth one is Queenslayer, and the last one is Crownbreaker. I won't be holding all of these books up because I simply can't. So, this book is about Callan, a 15-year-old boy about to turn 16, and he has to do his mage's trials. So he has to duel someone in his clan to become an actual mage, but he already knows that he doesn't really have any magic in him. He really can't do any magic. He already knows this, but he has to become a servant if he doesn't get through this. So before this happens, an Argosy comes in, Farius Parfax, and she is just amazing. And they decide that they actually want to run away. That Callan decides he actually wants to run away, and he runs away with her. And we also get to see Raikish, which is a squirrel cat, and he's amazing. I mean, he just wants to eat butter biscuits and people's eyeballs. Who doesn't want that? But jokes aside, he's a really sarcastic character and I really loved it. I just love animal companions, especially when they're like this. I really love this book and I love all of the other books in the series. I think part 3 is my favorite, but I kind of think that this might be my favorite series of all time, combined with the series that I'm going to talk to you about soon. This just, I don't know. I think people say that this is categorized as maybe some sort of Western. I didn't really see that when I was reading this. I was just seeing it as a fantasy, but either way, it is an amazing series and I really recommend you try this out. I mean, have you seen the covers? Please try this out. So for the final one, and probably one of my favorites of all time, actually one of my favorites of all time is something that probably everyone will expect and isn't really original at all, but I mean, come on. It's the Harry Potter series. I mean, who doesn't love this? I really love it. For the people of you who don't know what this is about, what are you doing? I mean, how? So this is about Harry. He starts out as an 11-year-old and hears that he has magical powers. And he goes to Hogwarts in these books and, well, this is just his journey through finding out that he has magic and doing magic. I love this series so much. I love Harry Potter. Please read it. I love it so much. So these were actually all the books that I wanted to talk to you about. I really hope that you like this video because it's something really different than I used to make. But I think that I want to create more content like this and I hope you do too. So please talk to me in the comments if one of these books is your favorite as well. Or if you didn't like them, you can tell me. Of course you can tell me. I would really like to see why. I would really like to start a conversation with you, a discussion. So please tell me all the books that you would recommend to me. I would really like to know that as well. So please recommend them in the comments to me. I really hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing. Anyway, thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you next time. Bye!